Imagine, a world on edge, a world bathed in the eerie glow of breaking news, a world holding its breath. The year is irrelevant, it is a time we all fear. The tinderbox of global tensions ignited, a spark somewhere distant, quickly becoming a wildfire. Whispers of conflict had been growing louder, but their rhythm was familiar, almost comforting. Politicians postured, generals strategized, people went about their lives clinging to a fragile hope. Then, everything changed. The first tremors were felt in the east. Not the roar of bombs, not yet, but the chilling pronouncements of power. An ultimatum delivered, a border crossed. Fear, sharp and sudden, gripped the world. This was not a drill, this was not a game, this was real. Families huddled around flickering television screens, faces etched with worry. The news, a relentless torrent of information and speculation. Maps dotted with ominous red symbols became harbingers of chaos. Alliances long dormant snapped into focus. Lines were drawn in the sand, declarations made with steely resolve. The world divided, bracing for impact. On the streets, a different kind of mobilization was underway. Empty grocery store shelves spoke of a primal fear. The murmur of prayers mingled with the frantic hum of last-minute phone calls. A young mother, eyes red from crying, clutched her child's hand a little tighter. A soldier, thousands of miles away, kissed a photograph, a silent goodbye. The waiting ended with a deafening roar. Missiles, streaks of fire against the dawning sky, found their targets. Cities, once vibrant hubs of life, were reduced to infernos. The initial shock gave way to a grim reality. This was war, not a distant conflict on the evening news, but a visceral, all-encompassing nightmare. In bomb shelters and makeshift bunkers, humanity cowered. Every explosion, every burst of static on the radio was a stark reminder of the fragility of life. Day 7. A world ablaze. The world watched in horror as the conflict spiraled. What began as a localized conflict metastasized, engulfing entire continents in its deadly embrace. The initial shock waves gave way to a numbing sense of disbelief. How could this be happening? In the 21st century, how could the world be on fire? Stories of courage and sacrifice began to emerge from the ashes. First responders risking their lives to pull survivors from the rubble. Ordinary citizens sharing meager rations and offering words of comfort. Day 14. Echoes of fear. The world had changed in ways no one could have ever imagined. 2 weeks into the conflict, the world was a different place. Cities that once bustled with life now lay in ruins, their streets eerily silent. The air, thick with smoke and the stench of death, was suffocating. It was a grim reminder of the devastation that had swept across the land. The skies, crisscrossed by contrails and the ominous glow of distant fires, painted a picture of unending chaos. The sun, once a symbol of hope, was now obscured by a veil of ash. Fear, once a sharp, piercing emotion, had become a constant companion. It was no longer a fleeting feeling but a permanent state of being. It lurked in the shadows, whispered in the wind, and settled like a lead weight in the pit of every stomach. Every creak, every rustle, was a potential threat. In refugee camps, sprawling and overcrowded, displaced families clung to fading photographs, the only remnants of a life shattered. These images were their last ties to a world that no longer existed. Each new arrival brought with them tales of unimaginable suffering, stories of lost loved ones, of homes reduced to rubble, and of a future that seemed increasingly uncertain. The echoes of fear reverberated through every corner of these camps, a haunting reminder of the fragility of human existence. Day 30, a generation defined, a month into the abyss. An entire generation forever scarred by the horrors they had witnessed. Children robbed of their innocence played war games in the ruins. The world had become a tapestry of suffering, the lucky ones huddled in shelters clinging to hope, the unlucky ones caught in the crossfire paying the ultimate price. And yet, even in the darkest of times, the human spirit refused to be extinguished. Acts of kindness, small but significant, flickered like fireflies in the darkness. Section 8. Day 100. Resilience and Ruins. 100 Days of War. 100 days of pain, loss, and fear. But also, 100 days of resilience, courage, and an unwavering will to survive. The initial chaos had given way to a grim routine. The living mourned the dead, the wounded fought for life, and the world held its breath. Stories of heroism continued to surface. Doctors and nurses working tirelessly in overwhelmed hospitals. Soldiers, putting their lives on the line for their comrades. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Section 9. Day 365. Scars remain. A year had passed since the world tilted on its axis. A year of bloodshed and loss. A year that felt like a lifetime. The physical scars of war were everywhere. Cities lay in ruins. Fields once fertile were now barren wastelands. The very air seemed to crackle with the ghosts of the fallen. But the invisible scars ran deeper. The trauma of war, etched into the souls of millions. The grief, a heavy cloak, impossible to shed. Section 10. The aftermath, picking up the pieces. The guns fell silent, marking the end of a brutal chapter in human history. Slowly, tentatively, the world began to emerge from the ashes. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos that had preceded it. The task ahead was daunting, to rebuild not just homes and cities, but lives shattered by conflict. Communities had to come together, finding strength in unity to face the monumental challenges ahead. The road to recovery was long and arduous. It required not just physical labor, but emotional resilience and a collective will to move forward. The physical rebuilding was a monumental task, but the healing of psychological wounds proved even more challenging. The scars left by war ran deep, affecting generations. The world forever changed had to confront the consequences of its actions. Nations had to reckon with their past, learning from the mistakes that led to such devastation. The cost of war, measured not just in dollars and cents, but in the shattered lives of millions, was a stark reminder of the fragility of peace. The journey to rebuild was not just about restoring what was lost, but about creating a future where such destruction would never happen again. Communities found hope in small victories. Each brick laid and each life mended, a testament to human resilience. The spirit of cooperation and the shared goal of a better tomorrow became the foundation upon which new societies were built. As children began to play in the rebuilt neighborhoods, their laughter symbolized a new beginning. It was a sign that despite the darkness of the past, there was light and hope for the future. Memorials and remembrance ceremonies were held to honor those who had sacrificed so much. These acts of remembrance served as a poignant reminder of the cost of conflict and the value of peace. The collective effort to rebuild was a testament to the enduring human spirit. Together, people worked not just to restore what was lost, but to build a world that was stronger, more compassionate, and more united than ever before. Section 11. A legacy of loss, a seed of hope. In the aftermath of the devastation, communities around the world began to rebuild. Not just their homes and cities, but their spirits and hopes as well. Memorials were erected to honor those who had fallen, and trees were planted as symbols of new beginnings and resilience. From the ashes of destruction, a glimmer of hope emerged. It was a hope that transcended borders and cultures, a shared belief in the possibility of a better future. This hope was nurtured by the collective will of humanity to rise above the ruins and create a world where such devastation would never occur again. The war, a stark reminder of the folly of hatred and division, also ignited a global yearning for peace. People from all walks of life, from different nations and backgrounds, came together with a renewed commitment to understanding and cooperation. The scars of the conflict served as a powerful motivator to seek out and sustain peace. The world, forever marked by the conflict, vowed to never forget the lessons learned. International organizations were formed, treaties were signed, and educational programs were developed to teach future generations about the importance of peace and the dangers of division. The map of the world, once dotted with symbols of war, now began to show symbols of peace and unity. The faces of the fallen, a constant reminder of the human cost of war, were etched into the collective memory of humanity. These memorials served not only as a tribute to those who had perished, but also as a solemn warning to future generations about the true cost of conflict. Each face told a story, a life cut short, a family left grieving. In the end, the Hypothetical Chronicles of WW3 serve as a cautionary tale. They remind us of the fragility of our world, and the ease with which it can be torn apart by hatred and violence. But they also remind us of our capacity for resilience, for rebuilding, and for creating a better future from the ashes of the past. A reminder that peace is not a given, but a precious and fragile thing, to be cherished and protected at all costs. It is a legacy that we must pass on to future generations, a seed of hope that must be nurtured and allowed to grow. For in the end, it is our collective commitment to peace that will determine the future of our world.